Hey guys, I love the Habitify app and I want to show you how you build it on Sketch for iOS. So I've got the screenshot that I've just taken from my iPhone, and the best way I find to get better is to just to rebuild key screens from inside the app itself. So what I've done here is I've just copied and pasted it straight from my phone. And we're going to, look at how they broke it down, what design patterns they're using and what color schemes they're using. And then we're just going to rebuild it from the ground up. So first thing we start off with is an artboard. I have the iPhone XS Max, so I'll be using that. So that is a 414 width pixel phone. I wouldn't say it's part of the mainstream sizes just yet. I still think 375 is the most widely used phone, which is, your iPhone 7, your iPhone 8, all the way down to your iPhone 6. There's a bunch of Androids that use the exact same there as well. But what we'll do is we'll grab this and we'll change the width to 414. And that will change it to the exact same size so we can put it right next to it. So we'll call this is the main screen for Habitify. And so what I like to do and what I think is really effective is to grab another artboard and just start building your styles at the side of it. The styles will be a mixture of the background colors, all the color schemes, the font, and any of the background colors that they're using inside here as well. So we'll just grab it all at the side here, and we'll figure out how it works. So we're just going to make a bunch of squares, take the borders off it, and start using the color picker to find, we'll find out what the background colors are first. I reckon that will be good. So we'll find out what all the background colors, I think this is just come from right from the back here. You'll probably find that these apps have been built by the best of the best. And the patterns that they use and the color schemes, they spend weeks trying to figure that out, with exercises and reiterations, and it's not just as simple as picking a few different shades of blue. So we'll grab a few of these other background colors. Oh, yep, you'll see inside here. You've used a divider, which is kind of like a light blue. And we've seen a pop blue, which looks almost like a select. It looks very iOS-y. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the exact same as iOS 12. You can see here, and these are all active states, which just means that they've been selected, at least these two anyway. So we have those three background colors there, which is this color here, that color there, and the blue line. I think we've missed one of them actually. We'll put it here. Leave that there. And we'll take it there. Yeah, cool. So you can see that there's multiple shades of blue in the background there. Drop the background down and we'll find out the text colors. That'll be important. Grab some squares from up here. And we'll start dropping them as well. And it's very important to use these over and over, because these will, any sort of consistency inside your app is what makes things look aesthetically pleasing. As soon as you start dropping and start grabbing a different new shade of blue every time, you'll notice that your app is missing that level of polish, and it won't look as good as it could. Keep it simple. Okay, cool. There's 3 levels of text there. I don't think there's any more. I might just go and try and grab this one here and just see if it's anything different. So you'll see when you actually try to color pick that if you move it too close to the edge, that there's almost like a half pixel of anti-aliasing, and you'll get a different color. So make sure you grab straight in the middle and just move your mouse around a little bit, and you can see that it all stays the exact same color. And when you know that, that's probably as close to consistent as possible. All right, so these two, you can see at the hex over here that they are 2 separate colors. So we're going to leave them there. And then the last one, I'm just going to grab all the secondary colors or the pop-out colors. And we'll grab them. You'll see an orange there, a nice orange. It's a yellow, and we'll grab this blue. Yeah, you can, oh, they look beautiful together. They look really good with that as well, actually. Okay, cool. Let's get into building the actual app. So we'll pick our background color, and we'll use that background color from the first background we picked, and that slots inside there. And that just means it's not a selectable. If you make it a background color versus making an actual rectangle the background, you don't have to worry about accidentally picking that up. It's just an easier way of doing that. So we have this top color here. We'll just make this make it 196 pixels tall. Remove the border and make the fill white for the initial background here. And I'm holding down Alt and I'm dragging with Shift so everything's locked. Down to the bottom here where we have the iOS bar that we're building. Now the iOS bar is usually just 60 pixels high, and I know that just from experience, around 60 pixels, but you'll see that the iPhone X has this extra swipe up bar that comes along with it. So I'm just going to drag it to the bottom, and that will be a part of the bottom bit here. So the next thing I want to add are these separator lines that are coming down the page. Now in Sketch, we don't want to use the line tool. We prefer to use the rectangle tool. The line tool has a bad habit of making half pixel lines, and half pixel lines are terrible when you're handing off to developers, because there's not really a real thing as a half pixel, and your grids get broken down very soon. So we get rid of the borders. We'll turn the fill into this light blue here that we've seen as a separator line. And I'm going to call this a separator line. And yes, we'll leave it at that for now. So now we'll make these 2 buttons, this active and inactive button below. So I think it's roughly about, yeah, we'll go 46 pixels tall. We'll stretch it across. Now spacing wise, I like to keep a consistent 4-pix grid. So basically that means everything has to be spaced either 4, 8, 12, 16, 32, 64 pixels apart. And that basically keeps the consistency and keeps that your eyes are just making patterns up and down the page and everything looks perfect. So we'll get rid of the borders here, and we will we'll choose the color that we have made. Actually, that's just a white. So make the left button, and you can see it's 2 equal halves here. So rather than try to guess how far white is, we can just go up to the total width here, which is 414, which is the size of the whole screen. And if you go /2, it'll make it so it's divisible by 2. And now you got half a button. So now I'm just holding down Alt, dragging across to the other side, and now I have a whole button. So I'm just going to drop this down to 16 pixels away from that. I'm going to put a separator line, holding Alt above it, and a separator line below it as well. Now this inactive button, is, yeah, that one there. So now we're starting to see we've got a bit of a basic display going on here. So what I didn't make on my styles page here was some of the text things. I'm just sorry, the text things, the headers and the subheadings and any body copy. I didn't actually make a style for that, so we'll just build that on the fly. So I know, because this app looks very similar to iOS guidelines, I have a big feeling that this is FS Pro display. You can download this font free from the Apple site. I'll put a link into the description. It's a great versatile font to have, and it's a base font for everyone with the iOS ecosystem. So whether it's a Mac laptop or an iPhone, and so a lot of they'll already have the library pre-existed, which keeps everything nice and small when you're trying to send data across as far as development goes. It's important for us to, as designers, to know how to simplify the developer's life. It makes everything a lot simpler down the track. So I think this is about 60. That's not 60. We'll go half that. 36 sounds good. And so if we click on the auto, right now you'll see, if I Control Z that, you'll see that this text box is nice. It's large, and when you hold down Alt to see what the grids are around it, you'll notice that this line is a lot shorter than that there. So if we just click on the auto, it will perfectly box it in. So let's make sure that's 16 pixels from the edge. Good, this is how we like it. And we'll start getting built on this structure down here. So this is the date picker. This will, when you are building your habits, you'll select which date, and it will show you down here all your habits that you have for that day. So they have just done this using a simple box, really. We'll remove the border from that, and we'll select the background. Now, I wonder what background, I think that is that. Yes, it is. And there is probably an 8 pixel roughly. Yeah, that sounds about right. And then we will make sure that is 16 by 16 away. And we'll make that 16 pixels from that. So all around here, we have this big 16 pixel grid, making everything nice and consistent. We'll add some text sitting inside there, which is probably about size 13. You don't want to go, when making mobile apps, you don't want to go underneath size 13. It's part of the Apple guidelines for reading. I noticed a lot of apps do it, and I know Facebook is a terrible culprit for it, but we don't want to be designing stuff that just, it has to be accessible as well as looks good. So they have a nice dot at the end here. You'll see that they've truncated how they've put the days down. So everything is perfectly 3 letters. So WED.TEU.MON. And that's just to make sure that if you have different sized words, you'll have to worry about size of fonts. And you'll also, it won't look as consistent if there's different letters, different size words. So we'll just bold that. No, I don't think that's bold. We'll go medium. We'll go medium. And then we'll put the 27th down here. I was just alt dragging that text. I think they're the exact same text box there. I don't think they're different. This actually might be a bit smaller. I've got a feeling they've got it at like 11. And we can just go and we'll use 8 pics inside here. 8 and 4. It doesn't look quite right. We'll go 12. Okay, here's where some cool magic happens. So now we've made this one element once. We don't want to make it over again and again. So you can download the craft plugin. I'll put a link in the YouTube description about this. And you've got this button called duplicate. Duplicate is amazing. So we want to take this exact same thing and we want to throw it 7 across. We don't want to have to do it all over again. So we want to tick horizontal. We'll type 7 because that's how many we want. And we want them to be 8 pixels away from each other. So as you can see, it's perfectly made 8 further along this line. You can choose to expand it and make it any kind of pixel spacing between each other. But 8 is worked with our 4-pix grid and looks very similar to what they've done over there. So now we have 8 of them across. You can at any time grab the duplicate control, bring up the what's it called? Box, and change any of the ideas inside there. So our next thing is now we have this Monday that looks like an active state. So it looks like someone has selected it. And it's got a few different characteristics to show that it's different. And it's very different from everything that looks a little bit more passive there. So firstly, let's just go type in the rest of the days. So we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now there's some cool things that Craft can do as far as pre-filling this, but because it's going up sequentially, there's not actually a lot you can do except manually input it. I'm sure Sketch has a plugin to do this. And it's very good to, if you think what you're doing is manual work, go look for a Sketch plugin because someone's already figured it out. All right, cool. So we now have all them there and we're going to change Monday. So it looks like if we grab the box for Monday, now if you just standard click, you'll actually click the entire habit day picker. But if you hold down Command, you'll click an individual element. You can see as I hover over that I'm highlighting individual elements. So we'll click on Monday and we'll change the fill. I think the fill will be white, 100% white. And the border will be that iOS border color. It's hyper blue. It looks like maybe a 2-pix. 2-pix grid on the outside, inside. It will be inside. So now this is one of the downsides to duplicate control, so I'm going to actually break it. I'll show you what's happened here. You can see these 2 blue lines. These are everything inside the mask. It's masked everything inside here. So if I was to drag this up outside the mask, you can no longer see this side of the box. So now that we're actually done with the duplicate control and we don't need to muck around with it anymore, I'm going to delete duplicate. I'm going to ungroup these. Oh, I can keep the group there, that's fine. And then now if I was to move this up, it's free to move wherever it wants. So we have that there and we have these 2 colors also being that same blue, and it looks like they've also been put to semi-bold or even bold to make it stand out a little bit more. And we've seen here that this is a new month. So they've got a yellow banner to signify that it's part of a new month. So we'll make the same thing over here. So we'll shift these down a little bit. I'm going to copy, just going to use my shortcuts here. C, V, drag this up and change the fill to our secondary color. So you'll see here that it still keeps the rounding consistent, but it's not what we want to do right now. So right now every corner is 8. What we want to do is change it to 8 semicolon 8 semicolon 0, semicolon, 0. So what I've done there, that doesn't want to work, sorry. We'll have to go for 4, 0, 0. There we go. So what that's done there is each of these semicolons is referring to a different corner. So corner 1 has 4, corner 2 has a 4 pixel radius corner, and then corner 3 has a 0 pixel and corner 4 has a 0 pixel, which gives it those 2 sharp edges. And we'll drag this down a little bit because I think it's a little bit larger. And because I've made that larger, I can probably change these back to 8800. So we go 8800. No, it doesn't like that? Okay. Some reason that wasn't cooperating. So what I did instead was you can double click on a shape and change each individual corner like that. The way I did it before was a bit more of a shortcut and great for the developer handover, but wasn't working. So, and now it has the word January in it as well. So we're just gonna alt drag, copy that here, type in January. That font was white. Now it seems they're going to have to go down to like a size 8 or even a size 9 here, which is below the standards. Boo! But unfortunately, that's what we have to do to get some elements in sometimes. As long as the important stuff is legible, I think that's what we need to keep as the size 13, and everything else we'll just work through. And they look like they've used SF ProText. ProText has a bit more of a wide spacing to it. No, they really have gone. We'll go size 7. Oof. We'll pop that there. Okay, 1 pix. And there we go. So that should be a little bit higher. Perfect. So there is our date picker. We now have a selectable date picker. And then if you stay around for the next video, I'll show you how to turn these into symbols. So if we wanted Friday to be active, for example, we could go pick it from a catalog, pick active state and turn this to its disabled state, and really give the developers an idea of what happens when we hand it over to them. So let's go and build these icons. So it seems like it's just if I look at this as a breakdown, we look as a big circle. We have a small circle that's been scissored off down the bottom here as a cutoff. And then these are just tiny pix lines, maybe 1 pix lines followed by the same here. So I've actually set my pixel grid to snap to pixel. I think that might be a bit of an issue when we're doing this, but we'll have a look. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Cool. Seems to be a bit smaller. We'll go 20 by 20. Actually, we'll do 3. Down by 1 more. So 22. And that will give it a 12 by 12. Awesome. With 16 pixels from the edge there. So we'll leave that there. We'll grab this text. We'll left align it. Afternoon. This looks like it's closer to 16 and probably a bold or semi-bold. See how, because I've alt dragged it from something else that's already in a group, it's added it to the group. What we'll do is we'll select it, Control X, Control V, and it's now part of its own group, which is great. Great. Right, I'm just going to put, is that 8? No, they've gone for a bit wider of a a separation, so that's fine. And we will start building the sun. So looks like we're going to use a white, make it a little bit smaller, grab our rectangle, and we'll just turn the radius as high as we can, which will give it perfectly rounded corners. Where was it? This will be on a 45. Or 45. This one will be up the top. So you see how it's not jumping perfectly in the middle? That is because it's trying to align itself to a pixel grid, which I'll just have to turn off for now. Fit layers and points to pixel bounds. So if we turn that off, you'll now see it can fit perfectly inside here. With this shape here, we've got to cut it off at the bottom. So what we do is, let's make a rectangle that is aligned on the bottom to everything else. Grab both shapes and go subtract. Now you'll see that inside this combined shape, the rectangle still exists inside the oval, but it's cut out from inside it. So now we have our beautiful shape. So now there was one more line which went along the bottom and was wider, like that. So I think there's still some touch up that we can do. You can see that they've used smaller lines. They've kept them a bit chubbier and they've kept them smaller. So we'll change the width of all of these to 3, and we'll change this to 1.2. Bring all these closer in, and that should be a little bit closer. Yeah, there's a few more elements we can change, so why not? While we're here. Great. So that's much more consistent, and I've lost my page. Oh, there it is. So just to show you what I did there, if it ever scrolls off and you don't know where anything it is, you can hold down Command, press 1, and you'll get centered back to your what you were looking at, which is good. So I'm going to make this a tiny bit bigger because I'm a perfectionist, and we are going to now that we have this built and we have it all a bunch of different little shapes, and we don't want to accidentally grab one pix of it, we're going to group it all. We're going to call it icon sun. And I'll show you why I've done it like that in the next video, but for now we have afternoon ready. We'll do the same for all habits. That looks like a much simpler shape. So we'll use a 22 pix circle because that's what we did before. And it has a circle with 3 circles in it. Okay, that shouldn't be too hard. Firstly, let's get the colors. It's white and it has that blue. So I think that blue comes from that one. Yeah, that'll do. So we'll make this border white, and then we'll have 3 white dots inside it. And as a trick to save a tiny bit of time, instead of cutting out that's supposed to be white. Instead of cutting out this border here so that it's 2 different shapes, we'll just make the border the same color as the background. And as you can see, that has done all the heavy lifting for us. Cool, very similar. There's always room for improvement, but now is not the time. So you see now that I'm dragging stuff around and it's giving me all these half numbers and everything. This is exactly why we do not. There we go. I'm grouping that, I'm selecting that, and I'm aligning to middle. That's not aligned to middle. Is it? Doesn't look middle to me. Take these matters into my own hands. All right, so we have that grouped, and we turn that icon, that is the all day. I have to turn that off, I'm sorry guys. Pixel fitting. And now everything's back to the way it should be. This is all habits. Regular with the text that shows that it's disabled. So now we have our 2 little buttons here, and you should be able to, eventually we'll find out a way to click between the 2 if you're watching to one of my future videos, but that pretty much covers that bottom bit here. So let's get some text in the middle. I'm not going to recreate this image here because that is more for an illustration tutorial, but I will get the text up here. So we have a pleasant day with no habits. With no habit. It should be habits. And we'll select that text. That text looks like it should be a nice bold. And we'll go a 20. Nope. No. Go 18. Now really we should have our text guidelines already set up with your header 1, your header 2, your header 3, etc. and your copy, but we are winging this because sometimes you just have to do things on your feet. Put that to regular, put that to 13. No, it's not regular, it's semi-bold. So you can really kind of digest what's going through their head as they're building all this. You can see the patterns that they're trying to use, the things that pop out on the page. Definitely the one that you've already selected here, your highlighted buttons that have been turned on. And it kind of starts at the top, which is the most important bit of the page, and it guides the user's line down the page as well. Now I'm going to make these 4 buttons at the bottom, and they look like they're simple enough shapes, so we'll go have a crack at making them as well. And then that'll probably sum up this video, so let's get started. All right, so we have 4 buttons down here. What we can do to separate them apart is make it the full width, divide it by 4, and now we have 4 equal slots. That was journal. That's progress. That's upgrade, and that's settings. Now it looks like they're using SF Pro Texts. Yep, we'll leave it at that. Okay, so this first one here, probably all very, they have to be similar height, so we'll set this to 8 pixels away from there, and we'll make it 18 by 18 as the canvas that we have to work with. It looks like it might actually be a little bit bigger, so we'll bring these down a bit further. So hopefully that they'll be using a 4 then, not an 8. We should be going with the same width amount stated up here previously, which is 2 for that consistency. With a white fill, and this is the selected one, so we'll make this bright blue, which we will copy from here. Just make sure I copy the right color. And that is just 2 rounded circles sitting inside it. Like that, we're giving a 1 pixel spacing. This is very extremely on the fly building, but this is just to kind of show off the final pieces that we're making here. So there are 2 of them and a small line up the top. So that's our journal piece. It looks a little bit wider, so I'm just going to make these a tiny bit smaller. The whole thing, we'll grab all of it. Just get a little bit wider. Progress. We can probably use some pretty similar elements along here. It looks like it's a square, so we'll go 23 by 23. Turn these on its side, and we'll give them all 1 pix width separation. Yeah, I imagine it would fit pretty well inside there. That's down there. Cool. Now that isn't selected, so we're going to make sure that uses the disabled state. Which should be a very similar color to the text, or should be the same color as the text. Sorry. Upgrade is a nice star. So in shape, you already have a star option. So we'll make it, I think we had 23, was it? Yep, height was 23. So we'll put that there. It looks a little bit rounded. Oh, that's not what I needed to do. It was a little bit fatter, wasn't it? Tiny bit fatter. Then standard. It was a 2 pix radius. No fill. And then if we double click into it, we can press Command A, which will select all the points and turn the radius up. Yep, that's just one pix radius. That seemed to work pretty good. And the last one is settings. So we'll grab this. 2 of them with a 1 pix size difference, and we'll get a circle inside them. Now this is meant to look like things are being toggled on and off. So you can see when a user looks at this, they should be able to instantly recognize what a settings label looks like. So it's very good. It's a very good icon to use. Cool. And there we go. That's our rebuild of the app. You can see if the before and after looks very, very similar. All the elements are built by yourself, and you can pretty much do this with any app. So the plan I plan to do with this is to do this with a bunch of different apps, and you can really digest how they've used it and grab that information and take that further in your UI development. So cool. Stick around for a few videos. We're going to build some styles. We're going to build some symbols, and we're going to figure out how to turn this document into a usable document that we can ship off to developers. All right, see you around, guys.